All right, well, welcome everyone. So I'm here with Glenn, aka G Money,
What
and
up?
he's going to be walking through Foundry Tabletop, Virtual Tabletop. You can see this hackmd.io link here. Nice big outline, of very comprehensive overview of the software. That link is in the special events text channel above us. Um, and if you have questions, that's where you can also paste your questions just like normal or type them in there. I'll be keeping an eye on it as we go. Um, and if you have a question that you want to ask at some point verbally, I can manually unmute your mic. Like if it's a really long question or comment or something like that. Otherwise, just type it in and we'll get to it. Um, and I think that's everything. Um, yeah, I think Glenn, you're good to take it away if you want.
All right. Hey everybody, G Money. I just want to preface this in saying I am not in any way officially associated with Foundry. I'm not a dev. I'm not a mod for the Discord or the subreddit or anything like that. I'm just a dude on the server who signed up for this thing. So I know a lot of stuff. I don't know everything, but I'm happy to be here and help give you guys some information. That found this outline document is basically what I put together of all the information that I found and used for using Foundry and just trying to organize it in a kind of a really comprehensive way. Um, so welcome. Basically, I'm going to give you guys kind of an overview of using Foundry as a player and then also using it as a DM. It is very complicated software. Oh, and sorry, before I go any further, again, there are a couple of times where I'll be pausing and just kind of like, all right, what questions you guys got? And that'll be the time when Sam can jump in with any questions you guys have posted in the chat or unmuting anybody. Um, but if you've got a super urgent question, then obviously, Sam, you're kind of the judge of that, I guess. um, you can stop me and let me know if I'm going too fast for everybody because I tend to talk kind of quickly, especially with lots of information to get through. Um, but yeah, Foundry is very powerful software, which means it is complicated, which means you need to understand what you are doing with it in order to get it to do what you want. Like you trying to learn Photoshop or AutoCAD or any kind of specific software um, program is there's definitely a learning curve that takes some time to get this set up for you. Um, I I really love Foundry. I think it's amazing, but it's not the best solution for everybody. If you're somebody who doesn't like having to look stuff up on Google or having to figure out troubleshooting software errors and or weird things that are going on with your modules that you might have installed, it might not be the best solution for you. In which case, I would definitely make sure you guys check out this link right here, Cyanomus's Guide to Playing RPGs Online. Oh no, the link changed. Okay, well I'll fix that. I'll make a note to fix that. But it's a amazing, fantastic, very comprehensive resource on just a list of the different virtual tabletop softwares that are available. Things like Astral, Tabletop, Roll20, Tableplop, Map Tools, Foundry, Fantasy Grounds, like all that you could think of are in this thing with like pros and cons, how intuitive is it to use, pricing, and all this stuff. It's an amazing document, which I really am sad that this link is not working. I'll have to go find it from that random Reddit post that they put up. Um, so yeah, Foundry, which again this is about, is really the VTT for power users and tinkerers, developers, people who want customizability from their virtual tabletop software. But with customizability, again, there's more to learn about the software. So a lot of time invested in that. Um, yeah, and then one of the biggest things that sold me on Foundry and making the switch from Roll20 was just how to how much easier and simpler and more intuitive it is scaling maps in Foundry compared to how Roll20 does it. I'll show you guys. It's amazing. Um, but let me just get a survey in the chat. Oh, thank you, Ryan. Um, Thank you very much. I'll copy that. Let's just update this right now. Not from this one. Da 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 da. Awesome. Thank you. Refresh. But that link is amazing. And then can I just get a survey real quick in the chat, guys, in the Discord chat? How many of you are currently Foundry users versus how many of you are just interested in Foundry? In other words, like just type in the chat right now, please. User or owner versus interested. Okay. Okay. Cool. 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 So this is perfect. So here we go. It's Foundry's a fully featured VTT, so maps, combat tracker, character sheets, audio chat, journals and compendia, dice rolling with 3D dice. What? And then that's the core software. There are literally hundreds of extensions for Foundry VTT. Like I think the count is like 451 or something like that. It's something ridiculous, and there's more being added like every week for things like having a digital soundboard, 3D dice, animated spell effects, weather effects, um, integrating with D&D Beyond, all kinds of things that the community has built and is what's it called? Provides support for, so keeping things updated and all that. Um, But I just want to let you guys know, again, I'm not associated with Foundry in any official capacity, but currently, right now, there's 25% off Foundry for Black Friday this weekend, ending tomorrow. So that brings the price to $37.50 one-time purchase, as well as there is a community giveaway happening ending Monday night, I think 11:59 p.m., and that's from the community subreddit where they're giving away definitely one copy of or one license key for Foundry and two other things that I don't remember what they are. But you can click those links and go check those out if you're interested. But first off, this is what you see when you open up Foundry. This is what the user interface looks like. If you are logging in as a player, you will not see all of these options. You will have all the sidebar tabs, I believe, on the right-hand side, but the canvas layer tools, you will not have all of those. I think as a player, you only have like 3 or 4 or something. Things like walls, lighting, sounds, and tiles are GM-only tools. You have the player list in the bottom left and the macro directory, so any macros that you might have programmed or gotten from the community. You can look them up there, and then there's a hotbar with multiple pages of that hotbar. I think 5 pages of the hotbar that you can scroll through. So that's up to 50 keyed macros. Just like any virtual tabletop software, there's a chat, which is where the dice rolls are outputted, as well as compendia entries or descriptions for items or spell effects or anything like that. Sidebar canvas, cool. So as a player, so um, I'm presuming everybody who's here who's interested is a GM, but can you just shout out in the chat, guys, again, please, if you are a GM or a player primarily? Okay, so about half and half. Okay, cool, about half and half. Thank you. So as a player, you guys do not need to download any software. It runs natively in a browser window. You just would log into your GM's game through a browser link that they send you, and then whatever login password information that they might have set up. Um, Chrome is the recommended browser. Safari, if you're on Mac, will give you weird issues. It just won't work properly. Firefox, I know some people don't want to use Chrome because of Google basically owns you if you're on if you're on Chrome. So there is a subset of the community that uses Firefox and wants and does support in figuring out how to get Firefox to run properly with Foundry, but it is not Foundry at the core software is not um, tested and made compliant with Firefox as a browser. It's primarily made to work with Chrome. And then as a player, the absolute best way I can recommend learning about how to use Foundry is watching the Encounter Library video of Foundry as a player. I posted a link to it in this document. Encounter Library is a specific YouTube account where I don't know his name, but there's a particular person who has made dozens of Foundry VTT tutorial videos, which are fantastic, in-depth, step-by-step, explaining every option that shows up, all the configuration settings, all that stuff, which is why this talk that I'm giving right now is going to be more of an overview, and I'm not going to be trying to repeat their work because they've already done a fantastic job of that. I don't need to be trying to do better than them. There is a public demo world that I've linked to in the thing that you can click and then use any of the players, so players 1 through 8. I'm going to go player 7, I guess. And then the access key is Foundry here. And this is a dev supported demo world. And we can see some of the things that Foundry is able to do here. Looks like somebody else is already logged in as player 7, so they're doing something with Randall. I don't know, but you can see we have like dynamic lighting in here as this character moves around. They can open doors, which reveal more things on the map. You can draw and all that stuff. It's super cool. You can see on the left-hand side we only have looks like 4 primarily canvas options, but we do have all these sidebar tabs on the right-hand side. Um, da, 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 da. So if you wanted to just explore and play around with it, again, I recommend checking out that Encounter Library video, and then you can use that demo world to kind of follow along with what Encounter Library is showing you to figure out all of those things. But general, just interacting with the map like Roll20, it's right click and drag moves the map. Left click a token to select it. And then by default, I got to log in again. I shouldn't have closed it. By default, the deselect is not just left click on an empty space. You have to, is this not letting me? Oh, all the player ones are filled up. Okay, that's fine. You have to do a drag of an empty selection in order to deselect, which is a setting that you can change in the game settings option from the sidebar tab. But that is by default, it is drag an empty selection to deselect, not just left click to release. If you guys check out the actors sidebar, which again, I can't get into it right now, but if we check out here in the sidebar actors with the people looking thing, you can view all of the actor sheets, also known as characters, because Foundry calls characters actors is what it's referred to in Foundry. You can view all those ones that you have been given permission or configured permissions to view by your GM. So that might be your controlled character, your party's characters, and maybe perhaps some NPCs, like some friendly NPCs, perhaps. And monsters and actors? Yeah, Foundry does read or does consider monsters to be actors as well when they are imported into the world. It's not like just blank tokens like how you at least Roll20 can do. But that's kind of the basic overview as a player. It's not too much as a player, but I'll pause right now. What questions do y'all have? Mobile browser. There is a Foundry mobile application. I believe it's there. I know there's an extension. I was just reading on the subreddit this morning. There's an extension to allow or to enable touch screens and make it work better with those. Um, I don't believe. I believe mobile is community supported and not directly by the developer Atropos. So it does exist, but it is not the primary focus of the software. Other questions? Okay. Again, there's links in here. You're going to be spending more time than just this talk figuring out Foundry if that's something you and your group decide to go with. Um, as a GM now, and just so you guys can see on that link, you can collapse and expand this table of contents on the sidebar over here, so that you can jump around. The way it's organized, we can skip around between different things. But like I've said before, Foundry is a power users tool. It's a steep learning curve. Expect to spend a lot of time getting to know the software. Make liberal use of the official Discord server and the community subreddit, which I've linked here at the top of the GM section, as well as at the end of this document. Do not do what I did, which is try and jump straight into using modules. There are too many, and they all add their own functionality with their own kind of quirks and that can change things from the core software. So get to know the core functionality software first, and then I would recommend adding in modules one at a time as you get used to how each individual one functions. Because you don't want to be like me with 40 plus modules running and not knowing how how any of them work. I do not recommend that. Um, again, Encounter Library has made a series of videos on using Foundry VTT. He's created a 10-part series for explaining different things from the GM side. Highly recommend following along with those videos once you have your own license. Or you can get a start with looking at the GM demo, what it looks like from the GM side, with these two, which are run by the community user Doomnot, I believe. But we have a Savage World system and the D&D 5e system, which I know this server is primarily for D&D, but obviously it's a virtual tabletop software. There are many different. Oh my God, whatchamacallem, game systems available. I myself I've installed 5e, Blades in the Dark, Pathfinder Second Edition, and Shadows of the Demon Lord. But I know Savage Worlds is in there. Burning Wheel, I think. GURPS and like Fate Core. Like a lot. Um, is anyone shout out in the chat right now, everybody? If anybody is not is going to is planning to is looking at Foundry for not 5th edition D&D. How about that? Okay, cool. You're an explorer like me, Conrad, sounds like. Yeah, it definitely does. 5th edition D&D is the only one that is created and supported by the head developer of Foundry, Tropos. But all the other systems that are available are community built, and some are more robust than others. I know the second edition Pathfinder one is constantly being updated and is well maintained. There's multiple people working on that one. That one is fantastic. I don't know how well supported the other ones are. Um, Yeah, exactly. It is film boho. It is. That's why I suggest making sure that you want to actually use Foundry. Checking out that Cyanomus link at the very top, which was, should I be using Foundry? Let's see. I should have updated the link. Hey, thank you very much. I don't remember your name, but whoever posted that in the chat at the beginning, thank you. So this is a similar style document to what I've created. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's also written in Markdown. But once it loads, load. There it is. We can view on the sidebar the organization for this thing, and you can skip around. So in this document, you can see virtual tabletops, things like Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Astral, Foundry, Tabletop Simulator, Tableplop, Beyond Tabletop, Let's Roll, Map Tool, Roll-a-Steam, Mythic Table. I haven't even heard of these ones. D20 Pro, Battlegrounds RPG, Epic Table. There's like tons of these things, and if we go and look at these, let's just check out Foundry real quick. We can see this highly comprehensive kind of rating scale for each individual virtual tabletop solution. So we can see that the different systems that this is supporting, we can see it looks like 5th edition. One of those is Pathfinder. One of those is probably Pathfinder 2nd edition. I don't know what all those symbols are. But again, you can see it's high on the complexity side, but like top of the line for as far as features and helpful community with Foundry. If you just want something simple and free that is not Roll20, I highly recommend Astral Tabletop. It's much easier to just kind of drop stuff in and get started. Comes with dynamic lighting at the free tier, as opposed to I think dynamic lighting is a paid feature for Roll20. And again, a helpful community with a lot of features. Highly recommend Astral if you are not wanting to invest all this time and effort into Foundry, but still wanting to get away from Roll20. Questions. Do you need a module? You do not need to install any modules. No. And I'll talk more about modules at the end of this talk when I get through discussing the core functionality. But no, you do not need any modules. We were as a GM. Okay. Okay, installation. There's an installation guide that's officially created by the developer Atropos, kind of a Prezi walkthrough that's been community created on like kind of troubleshooting your way through installation with things that you might have trouble with. It's really simple, except for setting up hosting. That is where most people get stuck, which we will get to down here. Again, Encounter Library has made videos about this. It's fantastic. But when you go to install it, the default install, that should say location, not option, is in the program files, which is controlled by your Windows system. Even if you have administrator level privileges, Windows will not allow Foundry to update if your install is in the program files directory. So if you know what you're doing in terms of not installing in non-default locations and you're comfortable with that, then you can install it somewhere else. Just make sure that you have disk space for that install location to grow, as it will grow as you add maps and sound effects and images and text documents and all sorts of things get added into that Foundry data folder. My current size is about 4 gigabytes after using Foundry, not just learning, but actually using actively with my group for about 2 months. But that is with an entire module imported. So that's all the maps and all the journal and compendia entries from the Princes of the Apocalypse module. That's Wizards of the Coast adventure module, not Foundry module. So setting up for install, we got to pick your systems to install. So let's presume you've already installed Foundry, and this is where I'm going to start switching over to what the actual software looks like. So let's change Windows on the share, Foundry 1080. Okay, so this is what Foundry looks like once you have it installed in whatever location you want to install it in. You have your worlds. This is my running campaign, Darkness Rising. This is a test world that I've created with things already set up for this talk, but let's pretend that you don't have anything set up here. But in here, we've got things like game systems that you can install. Again, I said I've installed Blades in the Dark, 5th edition, 2nd edition Pathfinder, and Shadows of the Demon Lord. But you can just install any game system. We can see there are 77 different game systems that have been created for Foundry. So again, Fate Core is an option, Alien RPG, Burning Wheel, Lancer, Cyberpunk Red, 1st edition Pathfinder, 3.5 5e, or sorry, 3.5 D&D, Dark Heresy, all sorts of stuff, like tons of stuff that you might choose to play or explore with. That can all be updated separately from each other, and we can see system versions for each of these things. So you would need to, and I got to pull up my outline document now so I can actually follow along with my own thing. So pick your system. So we would install system. We might search 5e, and we can see, oh, D&D 5e. We could select it and then come on down to install, or just hit the install button from right here. And again, Atropos is the Foundry dev, the Foundry creator. So this is a core supported, non-community created game system. So once you've got your system installed, then you can work on messing with the configuration to get everything set up properly. Which again you would do using the official tutorial page or or the Encounter Library setup videos, which explains things like what all these things mean. A link to the guide on getting set up for hosting, basics of setting up your world, creating scenes, all that stuff. I am not going to go through setting up hosting for those things, but that has to do with selecting your port and then setting up port forwarding on your router, punching a hole through your firewall, and all that jazz. If you don't know what ports are or or feel comfortable with port forwarding, do not change this port. Just leave it as 30,000. That's the default. Again, you can change the install location. I have it on my F drive, which is one of my SSDs, not in my program files folder. You can choose a default world to launch when the software is launched. I don't like doing that because I like to come in here and just mess with the modules. You can update the software as well as choose, oh, why am I on beta? I don't want to be on beta. I want to be on stable. To get updates to the different software. There's an alpha channel, which is usually buggy and needs to be fixed, the beta release, or the stable releases. You can choose which level of those you want to install. But let's say you want to create a world now. So we can come down here, create world. We would name our world. How about presentation test? We want to have a data path for this world. Probably want to name it the same thing. Don't have to. Best naming convention is to use a dash instead of a space in the world path, though. Must select a game system. In other words, you must have a game system installed in order to select it, in order to create a world. You will not be able to create a world if you have not installed the game system. We're probably going to be doing 5th edition, at least to start. You can put in a background image, which is basically what this background image behind this Foundry Virtual Tabletop stuff. You can see behind we've got the anvil with the D20 on it. That's the background image. This is the default background image. If you choose to put something else linked here, which we could choose to put something else, let's say worlds, I want to do Sirenscape, Dragon Battle as my background, And then you can put your next session at what time. This would be what your players see or anyone when they try to load your world, and a description. This is a test description. Create world. And now we can see we have presentation test, 5th edition. We can see the data path for where it is installed on my hard drive. And then we can launch, edit, or delete it. Edit. You can change anything except you can not change the game system once your world is created. That is set in stone. Again, refer to the documentation on the official tutorial page, as well as the encounter library videos for this. But then we would launch this world. We can see this is what I was talking about, the background image, how it's a dragon eye right now. And that's because that is the Sirenscape image that I chose to use. Currently, we only have the Game Master player in here, so we need to go in and create or organize for our players, set those up. Join game session. Blank screen, nothing set up here. We got nothing in here. It's blank. We'd come over here into settings, game settings from the sidebar tabs, and then configure players. We can create users. Let's say we've got 4 players. We've got Mary, we've got Bob, Fred, and George. And you can decide if you want to assign access keys for these. In other words, passwords for your players to log in. Personally, I don't use those except for the Game Master account. I do want to have a password for the Game Master so that none of my players accidentally log in as Game Master. You can set up your players if you've got trusted and assistant permissions. Again, please refer to the documentation and the encounter library videos for exactly what those user roles have permissions for. But that you would only use those if you've hand off maybe like damage tracking during combat to one of your players or something like that, or maybe you have your players creating journal entries as you guys play your games in Foundry, and that might be where you'd use trusted or assistant game master roles, or maybe you've got 2 different game masters running in the same world, then you might have another game master role. But for most people, it's going to be all players. We can save and return. And now when we go to select player, we can see the game master and those 4 that we just created. So again, game master, I created an access code. So now I can log in. And now that we have that, we can come on over here and start creating actors for our players. And I'll pause. Any questions at this point?
I don't think anything's been submitted yet, but yeah, if anyone has any questions, remember to type them in the special events text channel. I can keep an eye on it, but yeah, no questions yet.
Cool, thank you. So we can create an actor over here. Let's say this is going to be Mary's character, whose name is Retina, for example. They are a player character versus an NPC or a vehicle. Create actor, and we end up with the default character sheet for Foundry. And again, you can change sheets here for what you want what sheets you want to use, and you can install modules to change the look of these character sheets. We can see all this jazz, but the thing that's important is to make sure that Mary, the player, can view and edit this character Retina, or this actor. So we would right click, configure permissions, and this is where we can set up our player configurations for this character or this actor. For all players, we do want them to be able to see her sheet, see the characters in case they need to, somebody's checking loot or something like that. So all players I want to assign the observer permission to, but Mary is the one who is the actual owner for this character, meaning she has edit permissions for this character sheet. Everyone else can just view it. Boom. And now if we were to log in as Mary, turn to setup. Nope, that was too far. I wanted to log out. Now return to setup.
One question about those actors. Is that something the
Yeah.
GM has to create, or can the players create their own actors?
If your players are just have the player role, in other words, do not have a higher permissions role, they cannot create their own character sheets. So the GM would initially create it, and then after the GM has given the players ownership of those characters or those actors, then they can go in and edit and create it from there. Um, da-da-da. So things like putting in the race, background alignment. Retina is a dragonborn. Background is a acolyte. Alignment, neutral good. I don't know. I'm just making this up. Um, and you can create a character by hand with all this stuff, um, which is pretty much drag and drop from everything. In the characters and actors section, again, please refer to the encounter library, video, character sheets, equipment, class levels, and enemies. But basically, if you were going to do this by hand, you'd come over here to the compendia, and all we have right here are the 5e SRD compendia. So things like the default classes, the default races, and all that jazz. And Retina is going to be a cleric. So we could open up the classes, cleric, and we want to assign that to Retina. So we can see right now it's a level 0 character because they do not have any class levels. We want to assign those, and you can change these attributes as well. Maybe it's I don't know, 12 strength. They dumped dex, so that's 8. Con is 14, intelligence 9, wisdom 15, and charisma 13. Something like that. But we can come over here to features and we can see class levels, which seems like, okay, add. That's what we do, right? We'd add a class level. But this is for creating a new class. In other words, for a homebrew class, like creating something entirely, what the hit dice are, all this jazz from scratch. You don't want to do that unless you're super going homebrew with this. If you want to use one of the SRD classes, you come on over here. Again, this was from, we were in the actors tab before. We went to the compendia tab and we went to classes, which opens this up. And then we're going to just drag cleric over into class levels, which boop, gives the passive abilities of spellcasting as a cleric, and they have some divine domain that clerics get at first level. Um, and then when they go to level up, you just edit details level 2, close, and it boop, opens up their channel divinity. In other words, these active and passive abilities, any class abilities and features that get added as a character levels up, all you have to do is change the class level, and those things will get added in automatically. Same thing with inventory. We could add in weapons or under items, things like an abacus or a +1 arrow would go under here somewhere. Belt of fire giant strength goes under equipment, which we can then equip or not. And the way that Foundry treats all this stuff is anything that gets dragged into here is counted as items. It calls it items. Spells, we could get our spells from the SRD here. Things like they took, what did they took? What did they took? What did they take? Let's see, they took Bane, which is a first level, automatically put into first level. And where's Thaumaturgy? And they took Thaumaturgy plus whatever. We can see that's a cantrip, goes in there. They have infinite cantrip uses versus first level spells. They have 0 of 3 slots remaining. This is slots remaining, not slots used. So if we were to, for example, come back, where's long rest? There it is. Long rest this character. It's a new day. Recovers limited abilities. Yep. And we can see in the spell book now they have 3 first level slots available. Any questions at this point, Sam?
Let's see here. Nope, I don't think so. Nothing yet.
Okay. And again, the look of this thing is changeable with modules. And again, I'll get to modules towards the end of this talk. That's the basics for actors. Again, I'm just giving you guys the basics overviews for this thing. If you really want to dig into this, go watch those Encounter Library videos. That's actors and character, which are characters. We have scenes, which are basically maps. Again, refer to the, there is a scenes documentation created and posted, maintained by Foundry and Atropos, as well as the Encounter Library video, which is very helpful, highly recommend. Let's do a test scene here. So we have a new scene with a grid of some size with no background image on it. All right, cool, nothing. So we can configure. That's what this screen was, which opened up normally, and I closed it. That's the configure. Scene name, whatever we want to name it. Navigation name is the name that appears at the top navigation bar over here. So if we wanted it to be something besides test, so maybe testy, we could put that there, which will not change until we go down to save changes. But now it is testy in the navigation bar. Background image. This is your map image that you're going to be using. You can need to select it from in here. It is not drag and drop, but we'd pick it. I've got these set up already, or I thought I had these set up already. Oh, here it is for the talk. There we go. Look at me planning ahead. And this is all in the default Foundry install folder of wherever that is in your hard drive. But let's do a simple map right now. So orc map, it's 4,000 by 3,000. So you guys know how you have to change that manually in Roll20? Like you have to right click on the file, properties, get the pixel size, go in, set the pixels, all that stuff, and it's horrible. Well, guess what? When we go to save changes here, it says, hey, you're changing the underlying dimensions of the scene. It's going to change the pixels of my grid to match the number of pixels of the background map that we're uploading right now. Ta-da! Fantastic. We have our orc encounter map. Sweet. And this is a rather simple, almost kind of hand-drawn style of map that you can get from a couple different map generators online. I'm not sure which one this one's from, but we can see this map comes with its own grid, which we can see is not aligned with the Foundry grid at all. In fact, it's not even close. So we probably want to get that set up and aligned properly. And this is the feature that made me know that I needed to switch from Roll20, is this part right here. Because we can go grid configuration, which is all the numbers and everything, which is how you have to do it in Roll20 and just fucking futz with the numbers, and it's terrible. But we can grid configuration tool, and we can see our grid is the red one. And if we just zoom in here, what I'm going to be using is I'm using my mouse wheel combined with the Alt, Shift, and Control keys. So Shift plus the mouse wheel is going to scale the background image, so scale the map size. I can make it bigger, or I can make it smaller. And Alt is going to shift the actual grid side, the background Foundry grid. So we can increase or decrease that. Let's scale this to 1. Don't want to mess with that if we don't have to. And let's see, let's shift the grid size. We need it bigger than that. Bigger, 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 bigger. Getting close. A little bit bigger. It was like 142, I think, with the size. And now we need to align it. Looks like we're roughly the right size, maybe. Don't know. We'll have to align it and see how close we are. And we can just do this with the arrow keys, just left and right, up and down with the arrow keys. Oh God, it's so nice. So I'm looking right in here in this area, and I want to try and get it like maybe 2 or 3 of these aligned. So I can see it's a little bit, the grid is a little bit too small right now. So let's increase the grid size. Let's try 145. Adjust the offset. Still a little too small. Let's try 150. Da 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 da. Little small. Let's try like 152 maybe. and boom, there we go. Commit changes. Yes. And there we go. We have it set up now with our map. So when we import a character, which actually you guys can't see that because the image is something dark. So let's change that as well. But before we do, we can change the opacity of the Foundry grid. I've just turned it all the way up almost to 1. So we can see it's right here. This is the Foundry grid. Or now that we've got it aligned properly, we could turn the opacity all the way off. And that way we just use the image grid, but it is aligned with the underlying Foundry grid at this point. Again, we can change the image. So right now this is the default token image. We can see it's right here is Retina. If we wanted to change that, we can open up prototype token. And there's a difference between the prototype token and the basic token, or the token that's already on the map. In other words, if you update the prototype, that is the default one that gets put out every time you drag this actor out. If you've already dragged that actor out and then opened that one up, then you are no longer editing the prototype token, you are editing the token that is on the map. So for us, we want to edit the prototype and we want to change the image. So right now it's the default mysteryman.svg, but let's use for the talk, no, let's just use, sure, let's use a Nook. Update token. And now if I drag this out, we can see it's whatever that image that I just chose to use. You can also adjust the image in here. In other words, this one, this image, with just clicking on it for the image browser. I can put it there too.
What's the? I have a question. What is the
Yeah.
difference then between that prototype token and that? You're saying the prototype token is separate from that like character sheet image or whatever.
So these are the actors, and once you drag an actor out onto the map, then it creates a token with whatever image you've pre-selected or the default mystery man. Now that it's out, if I double click this and open it up, I am not editing the prototype token. See, now this is token versus if I do it from the actor sheet, it is prototype token. Prototype is like the default. It's the one that's going to come out when you drag it off the actor sheet. If you open it up here, it's the one that is on the map already. So I can change this image to say the party image. And this is the token that I've dragged out versus if I drag this one out, I have not changed the prototype, so it'll still be a Nook.
Okay, so would an example of that use be like the character is on the map and uses wild shape into like a creature
Yeah, you
temporarily?
could use it that way.
Okay. Huh, interesting.
Or you have a bunch of bandit thugs and you want them to look different on the map, but they all have the same stats. So you might just have one bandit NPC that you drag out, and then you can edit the token once they're on the map to give them different images.
Okay, very cool.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, last thing I want to say about the scenes in the background image. So you can select this image from somewhere, browsing. This is go up a file folder versus select the ones that are in your world. You can also use a web.m video file. So you can actually have an animated background image for this. So maybe you want to, maybe it's just a scene setting because you use a lot of theater of the mind. So maybe you have a like a babbling brook or like a waterfall or something to kind of set the scene for your players. And then you can also include some sound effects, ambient sounds, to maybe water sounds or something, so that when you load a scene, your players will see that waterfall moving and hear some water splashing or whatever sounds you choose to put in. That might be something you use for theater of the mind. There are people who've used animated background images to animate just parts of a scene, which you can do using a tile. tile controls, place a tile onto here, and then I can put a different image onto this. So let's put the dragon image there. So then this is like not a token. This is like part of the map layer, or it's a tile. It's a separate layer from the tokens. Like how Roll20 has the map, GM, and token layers. So this would be a tile layer that I would need to have the tile tool selected in order to move. And again, that's more of the higher level things that you guys are not going to be worrying about when you're just starting. Scale background, we just did that. Dynamic lighting. Okay, dynamic lighting is an included feature with Foundry. It's amazing. It's awesome. So let's put our person back out here again. As you guys can see, we can see all of the map right now because we are a GM, and as the GM, we can see everything. However, if we click and select this token, this is what this token would see. In other words, if your player selects this, this is what their character can see currently. This is as if your character had 60 feet of dark vision, which as a Minotaur Retina does not have, but we haven't changed that yet. And again, refer to the encounter library videos for this, but you can change the dark vision here under token vision. I'm not going to adjust those right now because we want to be able to see the dynamic lighting. I can delete the fog of war real quick, or reset the fog of war. So now this is all this character sees, and as they move around, we have that light gray background, which is where they have seen, but are no longer seeing. So if we as the GM were to put another actor into there, let's say new actor is an NPC with an image of the party, select, update, close. We put this one over here. As when we have this character selected, they cannot see this thing even though they've been over there. But if they were to move over, there it is. It's revealed. And again, default to deselect is not left click. Default is to select an empty set like this, where you are not selecting any tokens to deselect. So dynamic lighting. As we can see right now, there is no dynamic lighting setup besides the fog of war, which if you choose to just use simple fog of war, you can totally do that. However, if you want your players to be able to not be able to see things because of perhaps you want this rock right here to block line of sight so they're not able to see behind it, that's where you're going to want to start using walls, using the wall tool over here. Walls and lighting will be how you set up the dynamic lighting. Let's say our character is inside of a room right now, and I know it's not on the map, but we'll pretend for a second. So I'm going to reset Fog of War again, and we'll draw some walls. There's all different kinds of walls, and I'll give you some examples of some of these real quick. But we can draw them nice and easy. Does not have to be on the grid. You can Control Z to undo. And let's say, I don't want to sit here and have to manually then draw from here to here and connect these and all that jazz. So if you just draw one of these, I'll delete this. If we just draw one while we are holding control and we're in the draw current tool, if I hold control while I'm doing this, it will draw the next wall from the previous wall. Let go of control and click finally, and you're done. And I want these to be aligned. So let's align those. There we go. And now if we look from this token's perspective, they cannot see through those walls, and their line of sight is dynamic to what they can see as they move around. These walls block movement. I cannot move through them, and I cannot see out of them. Oh, but G-Money, what about windows? What about them? I'm so glad you guys asked. We can also have invisible walls is windows. So for example, if we wanted a window covering this section right here, connect that, and then I'll connect the other end here. There we go. So now this character can see through that gap, but they cannot move through it. And we can edit the properties of these things by double clicking. So if you've already got walls and you want to turn something, say I want to turn this window into a door, for example, I can kind of, or think about it as maybe the curtains are closed on this window now. So I can go and edit the perception restrictions and I want it to be normal now. So I do want it to block perception. And if you notice on the map, it's going to change from this blue color back to yellow because now it is no longer a window, it is a regular wall. Um, oh, well, what if I want it to be a door? We can draw doors also. So there's a door for this thing. And now when our character looks at it, they cannot see through it, but suddenly we have this little door icon, which they can click to open the door, unless you as the GM have locked it, in which case they cannot open it with a left click. They just get that little locked door sound. And that's a right click to lock and unlock it if you are a GM. Open it, and then they can pass through it. Which if we look at the walls layer, it is still there. It is just now in the open state. Uh, That's the basics on walls. We also have terrain walls, which are things that block line of sight behind them, but do not block the actual thing. So for example, this rock right here, maybe I want the players to be able to see the stone pillar, but I don't want them to be able to see through the pillar. So then I would use the terrain walls feature. And again, I'm holding control here. Oops, I don't want it to draw from there. Exit, complete, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Start my next one. And now I'll hit control. And just like any other virtual tabletop, a bunch of longer walls is usually going to be better than a series of short walls. But now when we view this thing, that's what the terrain wall does. It basically blocks line of sight after the second terrain wall. So this person can see the rock. They cannot go through the rock, but they cannot see behind the rock either. That's the basics on walls. We can also now put lights in here using the lighting controls. So let's draw a light source. Maybe there's some torches on this stone wall. So there's a light, and here's a light, and here's a light. So we can draw out the radius, and you guys can see kind of the radius for these lights or how big they're going to be. So if we go in now, we can see there's these light sources on this thing that are interacting with each other, so that even if this character is outside of their normal light vision, they can still see that that light over there. And now here's the best thing about the 0.7 Foundry update. 0.7 added animated lighting, or rather incorporated from a community module incorporated into core functionality. So in the lights, if we double click those, we can open up a configuration for those lights, and we can set an animation for these lights. What? So maybe two of these are torches, and you can adjust the animation speed and the animation intensity of these things. So maybe this one's a super flickering light, a super flickering torch. Maybe this one's another torch, but it is much slower flickering. And then maybe this one is some sort of mysterious emanation. Ooh, or sunburst. Let's do sunburst actually, just because that one looks really dope. Boom. Let's reduce the radius on this thing a little bit, just so we can better see the torches. Dim out to, let's say, 6, and bright up to 3. So now if we're in the token thing, we look at this, So this character can now see the lights. This one that's some sort of flashing, some sort of slower flashing, and then some sort of mysterious emanation over here. Um, yeah, and that is dynamic lighting, the very, very basics of dynamic lighting. What questions do you guys have?
Let's see, nothing typed out yet, but it looks like someone is typing something right now. I have to say that's pretty cool though. The dynamic lighting and the light choices in the
It's
yeah,
it's fucking dope.
it looks very powerful. I'm used to Astral Tabletop, and they've got they've got dynamic lighting and stuff, but it's pretty simple compared to the options here.
And like I said, this was just added in the 0.7 update, which was maybe a month ago. So this is like brand new into Foundry, being able to do this in core. Previously, there was a module that you could install, a community built module that provided this functionality. Now it is in core. The creator of that community module has now created another one, community lighting, which enables additional light animation profiles. Um, and I highly suggest you check that out if you are really liking this dynamic lighting thing. That is something I have installed in my world, and it's fantastic. I love it. Did that person finish typing?
Yeah, so this is from Wolf Girl. How do you set up lighting on a character, for example, if a character is holding a torch or casting the light spell?
Okay, great question. So for that, we would go into the token. I'm doing it on this one, not the prototype token, because I just want it to be on this one. I don't want them to come out holding a torch every time I drag the actor out. Open this up, edit the token, close that, and that would be under vision. Um, so we could say they have dim vision. This is as if they have dark vision. So they have, let's say, 40 feet of dim, 20 feet of bright because they're holding a torch. And we can also set up an animation on that. So what kind of light do they have? Maybe it's just a regular torch, or maybe it's, maybe you want to do, let's check out light dome. I'm not sure what that is. Update token. We'll see what we got. It doesn't look like anything there. I shouldn't close this. I should just, here we go. Oh, sorry. This is vision. We wanted a dim light and bright light. That's what we wanted, not vision. There we go. Still not getting it? Let's try changing this to torch just so we know that that's gonna give us something that's adjusting. There it is. Now it's pulsing. Let's move this down here. So you guys can see the pulsing light around here. And if we reset the fog of war, it'll be a little even more clear. And now from this character's perspective, this is what they can see. They've got this bright flickering torchlight around them. They've got another 20 feet of dim light beyond that. They can see those mysterious lights happening up there. And if they approach that prison cell that we constructed earlier, they can see the door and see through because the door is currently open. I think actually they can click it from here. Yeah. So there's no distance restriction on opening and closing doors. So you just want to make sure that your characters actually move up to them or not. Oh, as a GM during actual gameplay, all we've done so far is like kind of setup. During actual gameplay, you can actually just hit spacebar to just pause the game, meaning all of your player role actor or yeah, all of your anyone with just the player role is no longer able to move or edit anything on the map. They can't click doors, they can't move their characters, they can't um, look around corners or anything like that. So this might be something you'd use to give a description for a new room that they've uncovered, or perhaps they get a click as they've stepped on a pressure plate and activated a trap of some kind, and you tell them that they have like a dex roll to make or something like that to try and avoid that. Or maybe you just want to stop your players from running off in all directions as they try and explore your map during actual gameplay. Thank you for that, Wolf Girl. Um, yeah, that's basics of setting up a map. We also have the combat tracker here, where we have no active encounters currently, so you can pre-create your encounters, preload your encounters into here. Um, let's say we want to add an encounter. Who's going to be in this encounter? Well, we're definitely going to have Retina is going to be in this encounter, so we're going to toggle combat state. And I opened this up with a right click on the token, toggle combat state, boom, they're in the combat tracker. And who's over in this lighted area, they're also in this combat. So boom, they're also in there. And we can have them roll initiative. They're automatically sorted by initiative order. Why is that not a default in other VTTs? And we can begin combat. If you desire, because all the roles are then input into the chat, and it's really tedious to be switching back and forth between these two, you can actually right-click on anything on this sidebar, and it opens up its own little window, and you can pop it out. So we know it's Retina's turn. Retina is going to open up their character sheets, go to their inventory, and they don't have anything right now, so let's give them an item, a longsword. We've got just a regular plain longsword. They need to have it equipped, and then that way they can come in here, and when they mouse over it, they get this little roll icon. If they click that, it gets put in the chat, where they can then click to roll their attack with advantage or disadvantage, any situational bonuses. Perhaps they've got bless on them, so they get to add a d4 plus 1d4, for example. The formula, you're not going to want to edit that unless you know what you're doing. That's editing the background, what the dice are actually rolling. So it's at mod, it's adding on the relevant ability modifier and their proficiency bonus. This current actor, we did not set up the proficiencies, I believe. Attributes, we did not set up weapon proficiencies, so they're not going to get their proficiency bonus added to this. So let's try a roll here. So they rolled an 8 total, because if we click this, we can see the actual specifics. They rolled a 4 on their d20, a 3 on their d4, and then +1 from strength, I believe. Yes, +1 from strength. They rolled an 8. Doesn't normally hit, but let's pretend that they did hit. Wow, 12 with advantage, not great. 12 hits, awesome, cool. So they're going to roll damage. Was it a crit or not? It's normal, so they roll their normal damage. Boom, 8 points of damage because they rolled a 7 +1. So then we might come in here, have this token open, and we could edit the hit points here. So take away 8 makes 2, and we know that this one's at 2 out of 10 at this point. This is a little cumbersome to deal with constantly having to open up the tokens to edit health values and that such. So there are modules that input the actual health values into the combat tracker, as well as the target's AC and other sorts of beneficial things. But again, this is just the core functionality right now. So that is the end of their turn. So then it's Diffidiv's turn, who would do something similar of whatever they're going to do, and then it would go back and forth until one of them is defeated. We can see there's a nice little beautiful little skull here that shows up that the players can see, so they know that token is dead, or that monster is dead. And if they're the only one, then we can end combat, which will end the combat and empty the turn tracker out. Closes that encounter. Oh, there we go. So tracked resource. This is something that gets added into the tracker. So I'll put these back up, put these back in here. And let's say we want to track the AC. We want the AC put up here so we don't have to keep opening and asking people what their ACs are. So that would be attributes.ac.value. Save tracker, and we can see they both have AC of 10 right now. Or maybe you want to track their HP right there. So attributes.hp value. So you can, again, edit it, 3, and it updates it right there. And if you're a fan of automation, again, there are lots and lots of modules that can help do that for you, which again, we'll get to modules at the end of this talk, which we are actually just about at. I will pause here for questions. Again, the Encounter Library has made a video about this, and it is very good, and I recommend you check that out. Do we have any questions, Sam?
Yeah, looks like Ryan asked, would you be able to show us how Foundry interacts with D&D Beyond, if it does?
Yes, that's in the modules, and I'll definitely be getting to that. So thank you for that reminder, Ryan.
Cool.
Okay. Anybody else typing or anything right now?
It doesn't look like it. But yeah, as a reminder, if anyone has any other questions, just type them in. Read them off for you.
Okay. So the modules. We are at the modules section of the outline. They are community-built extensions for Foundry, meaning they extend the functionality or change the functionality or the look of Foundry in some way, built and maintained by the community. And this is really where the power of Foundry comes in, the customizability of this software, where you can add or change just about anything in this software. It's fantastic. Again, I do not recommend using modules until you are comfortable using the core software and understand how the core software works. And then again, add them only one at a time so that you understand what each thing does as you are adding them in. But as far as installing them, we would need to return to setup. So again, we were in the game world. Now we are in the setup configuration. We would come on over here to add-on modules. And you can see I have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of them installed. I do not use all of these all the time. In fact, I will show you my I'll show you my world. Here we go. Darkness Rising, launch world. Forgot my access key there for a second. And it does take longer to load, and the more modules that you're using, the greater impact it's going to be on your hardware. So obviously, if you're running 40 to 50 modules, it's going to take longer to load for both you and your players. And if you have people playing on older laptops or low-end machines, you'll definitely want to make sure that you are working with them to ensure that they're able to get the best performance out of things, which might mean disabling certain modules on overall or just on their end, because there is some configuration available from the player side. But if we look at the module list that I am running, and actually let's look at the start page so we can see some of the effects. So I've got a weather effects module installed right now, so we can see there's some snow and or I think it's sleet is the effect going right now with some fog. I have a calendar module installed, and as well as a time tracker with with a weather effects thing. So every time I click this, I can reset the weather effects to match what the description is, which we can change the zone of the world that we're in, whether we're in temperate, tropical, taiga, volcanic, any of these different areas. And then the weather effects table that this is drawing from is different for each of those geographic regions. But I don't want to actually change anything in my game currently. This is my kind of home screen that I've got my players going on. This is new. Why is it offset like that? I don't know. But looking at my modules here, you can see I've got 95 modules installed, but I'm only actually using 33 of them. Um, things like Beyond 20, chat damage, and in the chat, so um, it puts the characters' tokens into here when they do something. Um, a little change to the way dark vision works. 3D dice when dice get rolled. So let's say rolls animal handling. That went a little quick. I don't know if you guys could actually see that, but it actually rolled 3D dice on the actual screen. Um, and a bunch of other cool stuff. But you would get those again from the add-on modules here on the configuration page for the actual software, not your world. Um, can install whatever you want. You can sort these by package type, so there's all different kinds. Maybe you're a fan of automation because you're coming from fantasy grounds, so you want that. So you'd want a bunch of these, and this is for, again, helping to track damage automatically with to the correct tokens. Uh, Having calling for roles for your players so that your players don't have to sort through their character sheets and can just click when you call out for a dex roll. If you use this module, it will present your game master is calling for a dex roll, yes or no, kind of thing on your player's side. Um, Macros and all sorts of stuff. Some of these are 5e specific, some of them are more general. Um, da, da, da. Looking at my outline.
Are these modules all coming from like looks like they must all be in a central library and you can just search for them all and stuff?
These are all hosted on GitHub because, again, these are made by different people. This one's Cyber Pathogen. This one's I don't know, Tim Posney. Um, so they're all independently hosted on Git, but you can view the actual. They're all linked on the Foundry website, but they're not filterable on the Foundry website, um, which is why, if you guys look at the module lists in that outline, the official module listing is the one that's hosted on FoundryVTT.com, is the list of everything, but it is not filterable. Looks like we're at 545 packages, actually. It was 541 like 2 days ago. Um, as well as you can view different lists that are filterable or kind of curated for kind of like, here, hey, this one's really good, it does XYZ thing. This one's really good, it does YZX thing. So there's a list on Reddit that's curated by the mods of the community subreddit. There's another one that I've linked. That's a Reddit post to a Git post that somebody put together, and that one was super helpful for me when I first got started with modules. That's the one that I called out as excellent to start with. Um, and then I have called out some of the modules that I really like that I did not necessarily see on those lists there. So things like Beyond 20 and the Compact D&D Beyond character sheet. How many of you all are D&D Beyond users currently? Just put it in the chat, please. Okay. Okay. 4 or 5 people. Um, if you are not if you're not a user currently, I'll just say that it is very, very convenient for creating characters and organizing all of your characters and all of your digital content. The reason that I was against it initially was because you do have to purchase the content digitally, um, in addition to any hardcover books that you might have, which is annoying. But once you have made those purchases, it's a fantastic tool for organizing all that stuff. The Beyond 20 companion module allows you to roll from D&D Beyond. In other words, creates a clickable button on your D&D Beyond character page that will then output the roll from D&D Beyond into Foundry VTT. And that's with the Beyond 20 companion module. The compact D&D Beyond 5e character sheet, that just basically changes the look of the Foundry character sheet to make it look more like the D&D Beyond character sheet, which is really great if you have an entire group that's used to using D&D Beyond, because then they can more easily, again, find what they're looking for on there. Legend Keeper is really great. It's a world building software similar to World Anvil, if you guys know what that is. But basically, you can upload a map where you can then drop geographic pins to link to your journal entries or link to more maps. So you could link a map to your city map on the world map, kind of thing. And it's just fantastic. It's again developed by one guy, Braden, who's great. Has a community Discord. It's fantastic. Great people to help out with all sorts of stuff. NPC generator, Polyglot is really cool. Tidy UI. If you are using like 5 or more modules, you need to use Tidy UI. It cleans up the module list and makes it so that you can actually click once you're in the world. Here, let's look at it with it enabled and disabled, just to show you guys how much you need this module. So we'll go manage modules. So this is with Tidy UI on, where we can actually view everything, looks nice and pretty. And if we go into configure settings, under module settings, everything is nice and compacted, and I can expand to view the individual module settings. Let's look at what it looks like with Tidy UI off. Save module settings, it's got to restart the world. If we go to configure settings now, in module settings, everything is just dumped here. You have to just constantly scroll through, look what you're looking for. Wait, where's this particular module that I'm looking for? Oh, it's an alphabetical. Oh God, it's just horrible. If you're using 5 or more modules, you need Tidy UI. Okay, and then the D&D Beyond integrations, the big one, is the module created by VTT Assets. So that's under modules. Scroll down, page down doesn't work apparently. This one, the Virtual Tabletop Assets D&D Beyond integration. What this does is basically allows you to import a character directly from D&D Beyond into Foundry, or you can actually use it to import entire modules from D&D Beyond if you've purchased the digital content. If you are subscribed to their Patreon, I think that's $5 a month. Party overview iconizer is really good too, but definitely the D&D Beyond one. So for that, let's create an actor here. Let's create a new character, player character. This folder one is a module that I have, so that's not part of core normally. New actor is test 2, create new actor. It's a PC. So now we have this B button, and what the heck is that? What that is the D&D Beyond integration importer. So if we click this, it opens up the D&D Beyond character import. So as long as you can get the URL for that character and the character is set to public, then you can import it. So I'm going to find one of my player's characters from D&D Beyond, not from that page. That one's in incognito mode. Let's do D&D Beyond. Move that over. I guess we'll probably use, let's use a Nook, because that's the one that you guys have seen the image of before. View campaign, and I'm in D&D Beyond right now, browsing through stuff. get the link, copy link address. Okay, so now in Foundry, I can literally just paste the link for that character. Again, as long as the character is set to public, it must be publicly available. We can start import, which is going to import all of this stuff if we have it selected, which you will want to do the first time. Afterwards, maybe you only want to update, you know, the spells, classes, and features is all you want to update because that's the stuff you updated on D&D Beyond. Then you might want to update only those. But for right now, we want to import everything. We will start import. And we have Anouk Ravensfire now, who is a level 6 Minotaur cleric with the Acolyte background. Here's our ability scores, our proficiencies and skills and all that stuff, the spells, inventory, class features, all this stuff, the biography for the character, um, and all that jazz. So again, you can create a character from scratch, a player character from scratch in Foundry, but I highly, highly, highly recommend using D&D Beyond and the D&D Beyond integration. It's just so much easier. For a free D&D Beyond with a free tier membership, I think you can have up to 6 characters. And if you pay for the master tier level, which I think is $6 a month subscription, that's something that just one person would have to pay for. Enables the creation of unlimited characters and the sharing of any digital content that that person might have purchased. So in other words, you can get everybody in your group together and everybody chips in, I don't know, $20. Um, you can then you have $100 altogether for the DM to purchase all the player side options on D&D Beyond, which they can then share using the master tier subscription, so that everybody can make their character using all of that stuff. Um, it's a fantastic tool. I can't recommend it enough. Um, da 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 da. That's D&D Beyond. Torch ones. Yeah, any other questions about modules right now before I go on?
Let's see. I don't see anything in the chat. I had a question about just how. Can you speak at all to like the how performance heavy Foundry is with, especially with adding modules compared to other virtual tabletops?
I can't say in reference to other ones really. I haven't. I've really only used. I've used Fantasy Grounds, but only from the player side. I've used Roll20 as a GM and a player, which is, I don't know, it was okay. But I've only really used Foundry as a GM, which again, all these files are hosted locally for me. They're on my actual computer, so I've never really had much issue with it. Um, my players have complained that things are running slow again, especially those people on older machines, which is why they can go to their configure settings. This is from the GM side, so I can change all these things. But from their setting, there's some things like for Dice So Nice, they can adjust their 3D dice settings. So maybe they would adjust the presets. So in other words, turn off all the textures and turn off the shadows and all that stuff so that this module takes up less processing power. That's something you can do. And for that, I actually included a link for it in that walkthrough document. Where is it at? Where is it at? Where is it at? Da, 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 da. Okay, it's under the just straight modules. It is the one, a large collection of modules will typically impact performance, especially on older, slower machines. And follow through to the Git link from this Reddit post for recommended options tuning for performance without sacrificing too much glitz. And that's what I've done, and it's been working well enough for my players. Um, So again, that's kind of, I've down-tuned some of the modules that I've installed in order to speed up performance.
Cool.
And again, I use 30, you can see I use 33 active modules. You don't have to use this many. I also don't use any like automation modules right now. It is something that I'd like to do eventually, but it's not something that I'm currently using. But yeah, like 3D dice will definitely I think we'll take a performance hit. What else would get you a performance hit? The more animated lighting and the more walls and stuff like that that you have on a map, the greater the hit for performance there is. Um, Weather effects are definitely going to slow things down. Um, mm, yeah, FX Master, any kind of like animated effects that you have on the map are definitely going to slow things down.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah. If anyone else has any other questions, please type them in. Looks like Apollo's writing something. Would this be a good moment to probably just for them to ask any general questions as well, right? Even outside modules.
Yeah, we're done with the walkthrough stuff. The other stuff I have on here is just kind of general links.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if anyone else has any outside of modules, any other just general questions about Foundry and stuff, feel free to start typing them in there. Yeah, the module thing seems pretty cool. I kind of now that I'm seeing that, I could see where that could be really powerful.
And that's the power of Foundry, is those community extensions that you can, like, if you know code, you can like build your own extension to do whatever the hell you want with Foundry. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super awesome. Because there's a bunch. Astral's great, but there's a lot of little things that it doesn't have, and if you could just write it up yourself or find a cool little module someone built and import it, that'd be pretty amazing.
Okay, three questions or two questions. WebM files are compatible? Yes. You can use a WebM file on a tile for kind of an animated little kind of sub thing that you can kind of move around on your scene, or you can use it as a background image that's animated. Um, as a DM, interested in seeing how quickly you set up a scene on the fly. Okay, let's try that. So I will open up my Foundry. Let's go back to the test world. Um, so if you're doing it for something on the fly, it's definitely not a software that's set up for that. Um, but if you wanted, you could, if you're really doing something on the fly, let's do a new scene. Um, we don't have an image that we're going to put in. So we just have this section here. We can actually use the drawing tools if we're used to doing more of a whiteboard kind of GMing. And so maybe we freehand draw. So maybe we've got, let's see, we've got a road here with a carriage of some kind with, like, I don't know, body and some blood pools here. We want to have some actors that are NPCs of Gerblins, or Gerblin is one of them. Um, Prototype token, we could set up an image of something. Let's just use, again, I'm not going to use those. Let's use something else. Token images. Um, sure, let's use a Wereshark token. Why not? Update token. We would drag this in. It's a Wereshark. I want a bunch of these so I can copy and paste, and it'll paste wherever the mouse is. So we've got 5 of those in there. I want them all to be hidden. So I can select, right click, toggle visibility. Boop. So they're now hidden. And then my party is going to be ambling in from this side. Maybe I do want dynamic lighting here, so I could throw some walls in here. Like maybe I'll do a terrain wall for this cabin looking thing, or for this cart. And then some actual walls for these because they're on a cliffside pass, and this is the only place that they can be at. Okay, so now our party looks in. They can't see outside of that thing, or maybe it's a tunnel or something. I don't know. Um, they move up. Oh my God, things. And all right, you hear growling from the side. I need everybody to roll initiative. All right, let's toggle this into the combat state and deselect as a GM because we're going to have 3 were sharks in the combat, visible, that suddenly are inside the walls. And now we are, I do want these visible. There we go. Now they can see them, and we are in combat right now. So if you know what you're doing, you can do it really quick. Um, it's I think Foundry is definitely set up to be more like created scenes ahead of time than this kind of on the fly GMing. But it is totally possible. I made I found out about 2 hours before session, maybe a month and a half ago, that two of my players weren't going to make it. So I just kind of threw together a really quick one shot for those 3 players that were able to make it. And that took me, yeah, about an hour and a half to make a scene um, with walls, with some lighting, um, and uh, and a couple, like 2 encounters with different enemy types and an NPC for them to interact with. So it is possible, but it's definitely more of a ahead of time software, I think. For those of you who are still here, again, I just want to call your attention to the fact that there is a Black Friday sale on Foundry right now. On the website, it's 25% off, as well as there is a community giveaway happening in the community subreddit. And those links you can find at the very top of the document and the very bottom of the document. The community under Community Foundry links, I've linked the community subreddit as well as the official Discord server. Um, and some other resources that I recommend, things like Legend Keeper, D&D Beyond, Discord, Sirenscape, and that sort of stuff. Nice. Welcome, Gopher. Welcome to the dark side. We have cookies.
Cool. Well, yeah, we can we can also share those links, reshare the link to the document stuff in these special events text channel above, so everyone can grab a copy of it. And if you're watching either right now on Twitch or in the future on YouTube, I can paste them in the video descriptions and stuff. So just check there as well.
Okay, we got Apollo talking about random encounter tables. Yeah, I didn't talk about that actually. That is something that you can do in Foundry. Under Compendia, let's see, this is the test world, so it's not included in this one, but in the there are modules like community tables that you can download and set up. You can set up those encounter tables ahead of time, and you can then roll from those, which actually I did not discuss in this talk. Actually, that's something that's missing. But under Compendia here, we've got Nope. These are community macros roll tables. There we go. So let's see, 5e roll tables. Common loot. What else we got? Hey, independent. Wild surges, adventures, aerial encounters, art along the path. Let's just see. Let's just try encounters, see what we get. So we got aerial, beach, city, forest, dungeon, jungle, Nordic Viking, all that sort of stuff. So let's see, maybe social encounters on the road. Let's see what we get with this one. We can roll on it. So we got a halfling cook or chef who's out foraging for ingredients in the woods. And again, these are social encounters, so not necessarily meant to be combat encounters. We found a dealer of used magical artifacts. And then again, this is on the GM to then kind of blow this up and add description and flavor and all this stuff to these things. Let's see what we get for scary forest encounters. Let's see what we get there. A small portal opens up about 15 feet above the party, expelling a bloodlusted demon to the ground below. It bounces, stunned momentarily, before it acquires a new target. And again, we can put these right now. They're coming out as self rolls, meaning only I, as the GM, see this. So I don't necessarily have to read this. I can add my own flavor text to this description as I'm describing it to the players. But you can totally create these kind of tables ahead of time, or just use these ones, which are from a Foundry Virtual Tabletop community tables module. This is one of the modules that I have installed. Foundry community tables is where I got these. I hope that is helpful for you. Otherwise, that's pretty much all I got.
Cool. If anyone else has any last minute questions, now's the time to type them on in. Otherwise, thanks, Glenn, for doing the presentation, walking through Foundry. That was really helpful to see it in action and see all the different features and stuff.
It's super awesome. Again, I highly recommend anybody who's looking for more information, check out the links that I've linked to in that outline document, which again, I'll post in the chat again. Let's go up. Where did I post it before? I'll just post the same thing at 11 o'clock. Again, you can look through that. That's the outline document that I was sharing at the very beginning of this talk, and I've posted tons of links in there, including links to the encounter library videos, official walkthroughs and guides, module lists, the UI images, yeah, all sorts of stuff in there. Pop-out window. Yes. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by pop out. If you mean these as pop outs, or if you mean like being able to drag it outside of the full window, because this is kind of the default. And if I make this smaller, I can't drag it outside of this window. There is a module that does make it a full pop out. I believe it's called pop out. I think I actually have it. I just don't use it. Yeah, this one, pop out exclamation mark. Makes all these windows actual full windows that you can then drag out or move to a secondary monitor if you have that going on, or that kind of thing. So that's this one right here, pop out exclamation mark. Yeah, no kidding. All right, well, I'm gonna end here then.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to me ramble for a while, everybody.
Awesome. Well, thanks for doing it again. Appreciate it. If anyone wants to stick around, you're welcome to jump over to the Tavern Voice channel and hang out if you want to ask more questions or something like that. Glenn, if anyone wants to get in, like they had a follow up question later or something, can they message you on Discord or Twitter or anything like that?
Yeah, you can hit me up here on Discord. Just make sure you ping me so that I know that you're trying, so I actually see it. But yeah, any Foundry questions, you can send them my way here on the server, or again, check out the Foundry Discord server where there's even people even more knowledgeable than me, and there's someone available pretty much 24/7 in there.
Cool. All right, great. Well, if you want to rewatch this or share it around or anything, like I said, like normal, it'll be up on YouTube, so there'll be a link there. Just keep an eye out for it. We have more special events coming up too. If you're interested, they don't have exact dates quite yet, but it'll probably be like the next couple weekends or maybe like middle of December. We're thinking about doing a session 0 talk. And I think maybe someone was interested in doing maybe a Roll20 walkthrough and stuff like that. But just like usual, they'll be posted on Meetup and posted in Discord. So just keep an eye out for those. And if you're ever interested in running your own event, you can also reach out. It's on the website as well. Just look for the run an event information, and you can get involved with the community and run your own cool event if you'd like. Other than that, though, I think thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks again, Glenn, for putting this together. G Money, appreciate it, and have a great day, everyone.